It's 7 o'clock. We will call the meeting to order. Welcome to all who are joining by telephone. This is the regular meeting of Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 26th day of April 2022 at 7 p.m. Present, myself, Deputy Reeve Blosha, Councillors Foster, Pierrepont, Wills, and Gade, and via telephone, Councillor Kushniryk. Also with us are CAO James Webb and a representative of Jeremy Bergen doing a podcast. First resolution, be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 26th day of April 2022 shall be adopted as presented. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any requested additions or deletions?
I think anything I want, we can do in communications.
Okay. If there are none, call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Oh, Councillor Kushniryk?
Yes.
That is carried. Thank you. Next resolution, be it resolved that the minutes of the special council meeting held on March 31st, 2022, regular council meeting held April 12th, 2022, and special council meeting held April 14th, 2022 be adopted as presented. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, seconded by Councillor Wills. Are there any errors or omissions in any of those minutes?
Question, I was reading through them. I couldn't find anywhere in them a resolution setting up a public hearing for the financial plan. And I noticed we seem to be saying there is one coming, but I can't find the resolution that makes there be one. Did it get missed in one of those, or was it past one of those meetings, or where is it?
Is it a requirement to have a resolution, or is it up to the CAO to?
We could pass a resolution tonight if that's what was required.
Might be a good idea, because otherwise there isn't really a public hearing. We should do that so that there isn't issues later with someone saying we didn't advertise it properly, we didn't cover it properly, we can't pass the budget in time. So we're certainly on track by the look of it to have the budget done by the deadline, which I think is commendable. Though the first time in years we've done a good job this year.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Not, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
That is carried. Anything for Public Works?
Nothing for Public Works, no delegations, no petitions.
Okay, move on to 7.1. The resolution reads, be it resolved that the Council of Swan Valley West approve the Veterinary Services Board budget and payment of $8,795.93 requested for 2022 annual contribution. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Blosha, second by Councillor Pierrepont. Any discussion? Not, all in favor?
Yes.
That is carried. 7.3, resolution reads, be it resolved that Council of Swan Valley West approve the Northwest Regional Library proposed budget and the payment of $69,169.05 as requested for the 2022 grant.
I think
Mover, please.
you skipped one.
We'll go back to it. We have a mover for this resolution, please. Moved by Councillor Wills, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any discussion?
who's the rep? Is it Tyler? Mr. Kushniryk, I was kind of curious. I see the revenue is down, but the expenses are up. Is everything, if that's gonna work out okay?
So yeah, because of the COVID and that, their revenue up, and so in the shortcomings, they were making that up in the expense side.
I guess where my question is going is, are we giving them enough money? Because it looks from this budget like they're going to lose money. About $20,000 they'll be in the red this year. So is that for sure okay with the board, or should we be looking at doing something so they're not operating at a loss?
Where are you seeing the 20,000?
So I'm seeing revenue of basically 270 and then expenses of 290.
274, 8, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Probably 275.
That's the actual, I'm looking at the actual 2022 budget. That's the
I'm
proposed
sure the
budget.
board would have taken all of their,
The proposed budget, like the,
It's their budget.
yeah, they would have
They
gone
can
over it, I'm sure.
come back to us, I guess, if they need more.
so you think it's okay then, Mr. Kushniryk, that's not a concern?
No, the one line that I think they still had the budget for was for the union negotiations. I think it's just there. We have to have it in for it just in case that does develop.
Okay. No, it's just, as long as you guys are comfortable with it, I just didn't want you guys to have the feeling that, you know, you couldn't ask for more if you needed it.
That is a fair question, but
That was really actually uncalled for, Mr. Webb. Could you behave, please?
What's that?
The whispering into this, could you stop?
No,
Be professional for once.
zoom back.
that would be a very good thing for you to start doing.
Okay, let's keep to the business of this meeting.
Mr.
Thank
Chair, can you
you,
tell me what he said?
He said that they had reviewed it and the board had accepted it.
No, what Mr. Webb said. He
No,
was
I did
whispering.
not. We're not going to be sidetracked this evening.
Well, he was whispering to you, so if you could just share with
He
the
did
group.
not whisper anything to me.
It'll be on the tape, I said it long enough. Don't
Okay, what
worry.
was it you said?
Let's move on.
Was that what you said?
If there are no further questions regarding the budget, I will call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
That is carried. And I did skip 7.2, we'll go back to that. The resolution reads, be it resolved that the Council of Swan Valley West approve the payment to Swan Valley Immigration Services of $4,000 as requested for the 2022 grant. Do we have a mover? Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, second by Councillor Blosha. Any questions or comments?
So a couple questions. Yeah, I thought so. One's much better than the other, so I'll start with the bad news and I'll get to the good news. Only the town of Swan Valley West funded. Is there ever any chance the other guys are gonna get on board too?
They've been sent letters, they've been asked, we get no response.
The other part, I see a funding announcement came out a day or two back for well over $1 million to be shared, and this group is part of it, so congratulations on that, hopefully it.
Yeah, they worked very hard on that. They were in a really tough situation here 2 weeks ago, because of course the government decides on their funding, and they left it to like 12 hours after the deadline, so they had no operating capital for like 3 days, so they were a little worried, but
It was good to see.
no, they put a lot of work in there and with the north.
Any other questions? Not, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
That is carried. Okay, number 7.4, Swan Valley Crisis Center. The resolution reads, be it resolved that Council of Swan Valley West accept the letter 2021 stats and 2021 financial report as submitted, and be it further resolved that the 2022 grant of $440 requested be approved. Do we have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by
Kushniryk.
Councillor Kushniryk. Any questions?
It seems low, but
Not, all in favor?
Yes.
That is carried. Next one is 7.5. Next resolution that is, be it resolved that the following members of the council and administration will attend the May 2nd, 2022 G4 meeting. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, seconded by Councillor Foster. Who can put their names forward to attend?
I'd be willing to attend.
which day is that?
Monday.
May 2nd,
Second.
which is
Monday.
Monday.
I believe it's Monday.
It's 26th today, yeah, Monday. Yeah, I believe so.
I better not say I'm so busy right now, you know, yeah.
That's my problem too.
I would like to put my name on the list if
Probably
something,
end up snowing.
if
We're
something
done
comes
with
up.
that.
You wanna put it on?
I want my name on the list. It's just that
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
It's not horribly critical if there's a name on the list. You
I
can't
want,
go.
I want, I
Because
want
you
to
have the
go.
option.
Yeah, so,
I just
Be
didn't-
making arrangements for a meal, or are they not? Where is it being held?
It's held in Swan, and yes, I gotta put names into it.
For a meal as well, I guess it starts at 6 again.
I want my name on the list, but I'm waiting for something. So.
No, that's correct.
You could always show up if you showed up right after supper too, if suddenly you're available, right? If there's not food.
If you're available and something happens, you can have mine.
I think,
But I want
put
to
me
go,
down
I
as
just-
attending.
Please.
Okay, so it's Councillors Gade, Pierrepont, Blosha, myself, and Councillor Foster.
well,
I said I'd go too.
Oh, you said you'd go too? Okay, sorry.
I guess I could put it down if it's not.
How about you, Councillor Kushniryk?
Yeah, you might as well include me. Yep.
Just say
Okay, so that's
council. Just
All sides of the work out.
that's how.
That's it,
Have my name in too?
Oh, yes, for sure.
It's chicken this time.
Oh,
How do you?
Okay, so all of the council are attending as well as our CAO. We will vote on the resolution with that in mind. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Yep.
That is carried.
That's it, Lord Frederick.
Okay, next is 7.6, the resolution.
Can we leave this one until after, just table it till the end of the meeting?
That's what you'd like to do again? Okay, number 7.7. Municipal resources for election, third reading of bylaw number 0093-22. The resolution reads, be it resolved that bylaw number 0093-22, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West for the purpose of authorizing the use of municipal resources in an election or a by-election, shall be introduced and read a third time this 26th day of April, 2022. Do we have a mover, please?
Kushniryk.
Moved by Councillor Kushniryk, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any discussion?
I had some questions. I only just saw it for the first time today, so I'm a little behind still, but is there a particular reason that council is intending to have the option to send someone to jail?
I think you know that council is not able to send someone to jail, Councillor Gade.
So if that's true, and we aren't actually allowed to send someone to jail, why would we put in our bylaw that we can impose a term of imprisonment not exceeding 30 days? if we can't actually do it? Is that, like, I don't understand why if councils can't send someone to jail.
Have you checked other jurisdictions and their bylaws?
Well, I checked the Municipal Act. I checked the acts and regulations governing the enforcement of bylaws, what fines and penalties can be, what municipalities can do. And I find that municipalities are unable to send someone to jail,
Is
as
that
much
not
as they
what
may
I
want
just
to.
said?
So why would we pass a bylaw that we know is invalid on its face?
Because it gives the courts, I would suppose, more option if someone were uninformed enough or deceitful enough to try to skirt the regulation and actually break sections of the bylaw, which I don't believe anyone at this table or even in this valley would attempt to do.
So it doesn't actually give courts that power because we can't actually give that power as a council.
Well,
So
I am going on the individual who drafted this bylaw, who is a very, very experienced CAO in his previous employment. So I would rather not question his wisdom and have points that are perhaps brought up to stir up the public and get them upset that they might be going to jail or that somebody might be going to jail when that in fact is so unlikely that it's not even in the realm of possibility.
Is it okay if I speak now without being interrupted?
You asked a question,
I was still
answering.
speaking when you interrupted, but if you're done, then I'll speak again, if that's okay with you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, if we pass a bylaw that we know is invalid, there's no severing provision in this bylaw, which means that when that's struck down, the entire bylaw is struck down. We're admitting here that there's absolutely no way council can impose an imprisonment term. And I admit, I get the feeling at times council wishes they could put me in jail for 30 days, perhaps longer. But if we can't legally do it, I can't for the life of me understand why we would write up a bylaw that tries to give us the power to do it and then say, well, we know we can't actually do it. We're not great at following rules here. And so when we write this up, someone's going to look at this and say to themselves, wow, we could put someone in jail, when we all know we can't. The other point I'd like to make is that 7 of us here are elected members of this council to do what's best for our community. Needlessly putting something in to scare people seems silly, but ultimately the 7 of us here are elected, not someone who wrote this who isn't here to explain it, not to put our blind faith in someone who may be incorrect. When a member of our council comes here and makes a valid point, and his worship agrees that we can't possibly actually put someone in jail, I can't imagine us as a council going ahead and passing this, knowing it's not right, but saying, well, we choose to blindly trust somebody that's not even here to explain why it's here. So I'd be happy if we tabled this tonight and sought some direction on this, because I don't think it should be in there. I certainly am completely in favor of people not using municipal resources. I don't want a candidate using office staff or using the office or doing something they shouldn't do. But to threaten the idea of going to jail for 30 days for any arbitrary thing that's contained in this bylaw, I can't vote for that. I don't think any of us should. So certainly, we could table it and look at why this is here and maybe fix that. Would anyone have interest in tabling it?
I'm not sure whether anyone would have interest in tabling it or if there is a deadline to have this passed for
So I'd
the
move,
upcoming election.
I'd move that we table it.
I would second that.
It has to be passed tonight.
What did our previous bylaw have in it? Was it along the same guidelines?
This is a new bylaw this year.
What did our previous one have in it?
This is a new bylaw this year that was implemented by the province.
Yeah, I heard you, but I'm asking what our previous one had
There was
in
no
it.
previous one. It is a new bylaw that everybody has to implement this year.
So nobody had a bylaw in 2018 when elections were going on?
not for resources.
Oh. Okay, so again, I agree. This is the first time I've seen it too. And I'd like to see it tabled until there's more information on it.
You can change the bylaw, but you need to pass it tonight in some form.
We don't actually need to. There's no law that says we have to pass it tonight. That would be, it's not contained anywhere saying we have to pass it tonight.
It has to
Tabling
be-
it, passing it next
this,
time.
this bylaw has to be implemented 180 days before the election.
That's not actually true either. Have you read the portions of the act about the bylaw? I'll pull them
You
up here
can
for you.
argue black and white, sir, so I'm not arguing.
I appreciate that. It's a lot easier if you don't argue with me. So, what it says is that, sorry, I can't hear you.
We can take that out if you want. That one clause
Like there's two clauses, there's one for 30 days and there's one for jail for 14 days. So if we could remove both of those, that would make me happier. When I look at the actual municipal act, for when, let's just pull up when exactly it said we had to have this passed by. So we must, if we want it to be effective for the next election, it must be passed 180 days before the election.
I think that's exactly what the CAO said.
But what he said is that we had to pass it tonight because of the act. So I'm just looking for where exactly it says.
He mentioned the 180 days prior to the election.
That's only if we want it effective. It doesn't have
So
to
you
be
don't
effective
want
this election.
to be guided by these rules for the next election, is that what you're suggesting?
Well, believe it or not, the rules are actually enshrined in a different act. So whether or not we pass this tonight makes no difference. Candidates would still have to follow the rules because the basic rules are enshrined in Manitoba law. The differences that we're proposing that are not enshrined in Manitoba law, because our bylaw doesn't completely follow the Manitoba law unless it adds some additional things. Those things, it really wouldn't bother me if it's not an effect for the election, because it's not going to change if people can use municipal resources. It's going to change the structure of how we throw people in jail.
Are there any other questions or comments on regard to tabling it, first of all? Or is there an appetite to remove the section that describes what might happen to an individual in the court of law if they refuse to pay any fine that were levied? Because the fine is the first option. If anyone refuses to pay the fine, it would then obviously go to a court of law where there would be a decision made. It's completely out of the hands of council. Council does not have the ability, nor do I believe any member of council want the ability to even suggest that they should be jailing someone. Unlike what was posted to social media today.
Just curious, did this council not already pass this bylaw twice with those provisions
We gave
in
it
it to jail people?
first and second reading,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Councillor Gade, we
if the
did.
council was particularly serious about not threatening to jail people, they wouldn't have done those two readings with that clause in there.
That might be your interpretation. As I suggested, this bylaw was drafted by an individual who has 30-some odd years of experience.
You know, remarkably, I was just looking here at the portion of the Municipal Act that says that we have to pass a bylaw for this. And it gives no indication it's new. So how sure are we that we don't already have this bylaw in the books? Because it certainly looks like we could have one already.
I've asked for comments for or against the tabling of
Then I'll
the
speak to that.
resolution.
I think we should table it so we can find out.
You've
Yes.
already moved that.
Yeah.
and
The other reason is I'm not sure that anyone here is very confident that the $1,000 is legal either. Does it comply with the Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Act?
I would trust that it does.
So I pull it up and check.
Similar to other bylaws.
Some of them actually don't comply. For example, the fire bylaw doesn't comply with that act, so it's invalid. I can pull it up if you
That's
want.
your interpretation, Councillor Gade, until you hang a shingle stating that you are a fully licensed lawyer. We take your suggestions for what they're worth.
It was actually Mr. Minish that pointed that out.
Anyone have an appetite to speak to tabling this or to removing the reference to jail out of the bylaw?
Maybe that reference to jail, eh? Maybe that reference.
Yeah, I'd like to see that reference removed too.
Okay, so there was a motion and a seconder to table the thing. I think we should clean that up first. If there is appetite to change, we should call the question on tabling. Is there any further question or comments on tabling?
We could do this tonight, couldn't we?
If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor of tabling? Those opposed?
Opposed.
Tabling motion has failed. Someone like to make a resolution to remove the reference of jail from the bylaw?
I make a resolution to remove the penalty clause from the bylaw because it's already contained elsewhere in Manitoba law.
I'm not sure how confident I am in your interpretations, Councillor Gade. Again, I revert back to the fact who drafted this this bylaw.
What
And
if
I
we,
believe that he would have the knowledge to include or exclude what is legal and what is not.
So what if we made the maximum penalty $100 because that would comply? So if we changed it just to the fine would be $100 and we remove the $1,000 and the jail time.
Who's afraid of getting more than $100 penalty?
Well, actually, what I'm afraid of is if we allow the CAO to bring us a bylaw that on its face doesn't comply with Manitoba law because he hasn't read the Municipal Act or any of the laws associated with it.
It is,
That, I'm sort of speaking,
I could care less.
that's nice, but you could behave
You
yourself
could-
and council
you
should
could-
fire
you
you.
could-
What
you could do-
specifically we should
Gentlemen.
do?
You could just
We
comply
have to have
with the
them
bylaw as it is, because it is in line with our other bylaws. And if we wanna change the bylaws altogether, we'll do it at another time, which I would suggest we could open that up, because there is bylaws that need to be revised. But at this point, this is what we have.
Are you done interrupting now?
No, keep going.
Well, interrupt some more. When you're done, I'd like to finish speaking.
Councillor Gade, if you've got a statement to make, state it now,
So-
or
If we pass a bylaw we know does not comply, because nobody here did the research for it, except one member of council, then the entire bylaw is no good. So if we keep it to something that complies with the fines we're able to impose per day, which is not $1,000, then we would have a bylaw that is sound and could be enforced. If we pass a bylaw that can't be enforced, what's the point of passing it?
then I would state once again, the bylaw was drafted by an experienced CAO. Mr. James Webb was not involved in the drafting of the bylaw. It was drafted by another individual. And I would take his word, as I said, over your interpretation of the law.
I'm just pulling up the act here so I can read it to you, but carry on. You're whispering again, Mr. Webb. Please speak so we can all hear you. You're whispering again.
Okay, so where we're sitting is we have defeated the motion to table, so we are now going to amend the bylaw. Would anyone like to move an amendment?
I did move one already, but I don't think there was appetite for it. So I could try again by moving that we remove the imprisonment and we set the fine amount, we set $500, that would be good if somebody wanted that, or $100 or something.
Why are you afraid of $1,000?
Because I'm trying desperately to find in this act the maximum fine, and I know 500 is okay, but I'm not so sure 1,000 is.
I'm okay with imprisonment being,
We can amend the bylaw, we can do a resolution, this resolution amending it by removing the imprisonment clauses.
yeah.
And then we can take a vote on it.
You have a resolution there too.
And the 30 days, I agree, because it all goes together.
The 30 and 14.
That's the clauses he's talking
Yeah.
about.
Okay, so I've got it saying that third reading this 26th day of April with the amendment of removing the imprisonment clauses.
So we're
Mover.
passing, are we just passing the amendment? Or the whole
Right now,
thing?
we're doing the amendment.
This, the way I've got it
Oh,
written, it's passing the third reading
reading
With the amendment.
of the removing,
of the prison.
with the,
Should we have a resolution strictly to remove, do
no,
you think?
I think we can do it together.
Are we having a recorded vote?
If you want.
For,
Have to have.
yeah, for a bylaw, we have to, right?
I don't think so. Okay, you've heard the revamped resolution. Do we have a mover?
Yeah,
Moved by Councillor Foster,
I think
or we've already had that moved and seconded it, did we not?
Tyler and Darryl
Oh, okay.
moved and seconded, we just got to vote on it.
Okay.
And it's a recorded
So,
vote.
any further discussion before we call the vote? Not, we'll call the question. All in favor?
We're gonna do it.
Record.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
record, yeah.
Councillor Pierrepont.
Yes.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Yes.
Councillor Blosha.
Yes.
Councillor Foster. Councillor Gade.
Yes.
Councillor Wills.
Yes.
And yes, myself. Resolution is passed. Third reading of the bylaw.
The designated officer bylaw will wait till the end of the meeting as well.
Okay, campaign financing, 7.9. The resolution reads, be it resolved that bylaw number 0095-22, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West for the purpose of prescribing certain matters concerning campaign expenses and contributions in connection with municipal elections, shall be introduced and read a third time this 26th day of April 2022. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any questions or comments?
So we talked about this a couple meetings back, and there was going to be some research done on the campaign expense limits. Do we have the results of that research?
Were you able to contact anyone or not?
We decided through discussion, that this was the way it was going to be.
So who was the we?
It was council discussed it.
When? Could you tell me when that discussion was held?
It was at a meeting.
Which one? Does anyone recall having the discussion? So I recall having the discussion, we went to research it. I'm just wondering if more discussion happened.
Thoughts? Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
I would like to bring a resolution to change 31A and 31B. I'd like to see the change for head of council to $3,000 and for councillor to $1,500. Couple reasons for that. When this bylaw was first envisioned, I think it was probably a mistake. The numbers that were set, they don't go in line with other areas of this size. And certainly even if the original framers of this bylaw, some 12 years, 15 years ago, when this numbers were first set, had intended them to be that low, certainly they had not foreseen the inflation that we've seen since then, the increase in gas prices. It would be well-meaning to raise them to something more acceptable for being able to actually conduct a campaign. It could be difficult for some people to do that. I know several previous candidates have expressed concern at that. It doesn't cost council any money because none of this is paid for by taxes. This is paid for individually. So I don't know why we would arbitrarily limit it so low. I'd really like to see, I'd even explore more than that. But certainly I'd like to see head of council at 3,000 and council at 1,500, but yeah, I would be willing to entertain going even higher.
Is that in the form of a motion to amend?
I think so. It's the motion to amend that we change 31A to 3,000 and 31B to 1,500.
Is there a seconder to that
I could second that, actually.
discussion?
I don't see a problem with where they were. I don't think it's about money, it's about reaching out to the people.
No, I know what you mean, Darryl, but I mean, just, signs, advertising in the paper, driving around, it all costs a lot more now than it did in previous years.
Not double, not double.
No, maybe not double, but why cut it so close? If you don't have to spend that much, don't spend that much, But don't have such a small number that you gotta miss out on something because you can't go over your budget,
I think it's okay myself.
Well, I didn't even think it was very high last time around for myself, so I think it could go up.
Further comments? Not, we'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? Still there, Councillor Kushniryk?
Oh, sorry, I had it muted.
Okay. I call the question. Opposed?
Yep, opposed.
The amendment has failed.
So just one other comment, because I don't want there to be a point of unclarity later. Everyone has read what's here and is agreeing to what's written down in this bylaw, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just don't want anyone to say later that they were somehow tricked into what this says. So as long as you've all read it and are clear on it.
Okay, we'll go back to the original resolution. Any further comments on that? Not, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Recorded vote.
Oh, recorded vote again, right. Okay. Councillor Blosha.
Yes.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Yes.
Councillor Pierrepont.
Yes.
Councillor Will.
Yes.
Councillor Gade.
I abstain.
Yes.
And Mr. Webb has to record my reason for abstaining because it's a third vote on a bylaw, so it has to go into the
What
minutes.
is your reason for abstaining, Councillor Gade?
I'm abstaining because council's not paying any attention to the economics of running for office and are trying to artificially limit campaigns.
Sure, your comment will be duly noted.
Thank you.
I was in favor. Okay, 7.10. Resolution reads, be it resolved that bylaw number 0096-22 being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, for the purpose to amend bylaw number 0079-19, itself being a bylaw regarding the remuneration of members of council, shall be introduced and read a first time this 26th day of April 2022. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any discussion?
I'm trying to understand, we're taking out the 50 cents, right? So we'll no longer have a set amount. And then we're going to say that members of council shall receive mileage compensation. The amount is authorized by resolution of council from time to time while traveling on approved municipal business within or outside the boundaries. Said compensation shall be paid out on the current rate set by the Canada Revenue Agency for reasonable per kilometre allowance. So which one is it? Because we're saying two things there. We're saying we're going to set them by resolution, but then we're also going to say we'll pay whatever the CRA rate is. So I think we need to pick one.
The CRA, you wouldn't be picking one. You would be using the CRA rate, and it would be done by resolution.
So why would you do that extra step? Why wouldn't you just say you use the CRA rate, period?
Because you would need a resolution stating that, and that's exactly what would happen.
You wouldn't actually. It's a bylaw. So if the bylaw said we pay mileage at the CRA rate, period, that's what we would pay mileage at. And when the CRA changed it, we would automatically change it. So we wouldn't have to always be bringing another resolution back and trying to keep track of which was the last resolution we passed and what's the amount now, because we won't be able to go to the bylaw to find out what the amount is, because it's not there. So if we simplified it to just saying that we pay it out at the current rate set by the CRA, then we would never have to actually revisit this every single time those rates change.
That rate of the CRA is being suggested because of the increase in the cost of fuel, the cost of vehicles, repairs, et cetera, and it was reasoned that if the cost of oil goes down and the cost of fuel as a result goes down, that the rate could then be reduced to where it is now or somewhere in between.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I'm simply disagreeing with, we have two things here, because we have the word shall be paid out at the current rates according to the CRA, but then we're also saying we'll have a resolution. If the rate at the CRA changes, say it goes up 5 cents or it goes down 5 cents, our resolution won't have that rate in it, but the bylaw says we have to pay the CRA rate. But then we have a resolution that we have to bring back to try and change. And if we don't, then our bylaw is saying we're going to pay this rate and that rate. Why can't we just say we pay the CRA rate and leave it there? So when the CRA rate changes, ours automatically changes with it.
And in the event that it doesn't go back down if the price of fuel goes down? Because I would assume that's the CRA rate is probably a dated rate from a year or 2 years ago.
They dated every year, yes.
But the way this is written, we
It's
must pay
61
the
cents.
CRA rate anyway, because it says we shall be paid out. You know, so even if you passed a resolution that said we're only going to pay half the CRA rate, this bylaw still says we shall pay the CRA rate. So the council doesn't have a choice to
It's
pass the
semantics.
resolution.
Yeah, it's just basically, the semantics is that you're using the CRA as a guideline. So if you set that, and we can put that in there as a guideline, you know, you can assume that, but if it's in there, it's good, it's good. But the fact is that right now it's set at 61 cents. So as a guideline, we're saying 61 cents for the first 5,000 kilometers, 55 for any additional. You can set the resolution today to say, you know, it's not 61, we want to charge 60 cents, and it's a guideline. You know, so the CRA is a guideline, You set your own resolution to what you want it to be. You don't have to have the two rates that CRA does, but you're setting it as a council, you're looking at the CRA and say, yeah, it doesn't say $1, so we're not gonna do $1. 50 cents is too low. 61 cents is in the ballpark, let's make it 60 and stay the same. So then that rate could go up to 65, it could drop down to 55, and you could leave your resolution consistent, because resolutions will guide your council.
So really, if we should just remove the said compensation shall be paid out, that sentence should just go. And we should just say we set it by resolution. Because then we don't tie our hands, because as soon as we say shall, that's an imperative, we must do it. So if we don't want to be the CRA rate, we should take the shall out there, of there.
Is the shall in reference to the amount, or is
Well-
the shall in reference to using the CR rate as a guide?
It says said compensation shall be paid out on the current rates set by the Canadian Revenue Agency for reasonable per kilometer lot, so you must pay whatever the rates are with us.
So we could change the wording in two ways. To say we shall use the CRA rate as a guide, or remove the word shall and say that we will pay the CRA rate.
So we'll have to get the wording correct, but it's just, said compensation will be set as a, will be set on the current rates. I don't know what the wording would be, but it just says, would be a guide, using CRA as a guide. Be used as a guide on,
Well, then you should have, the council will set the rate
from time to time.
by using the CRA as a guide, not as using the CRA for
Rate
payment.
per se.
Yeah.
Said compensation will use the CRA as a guideline for reasonable per kilometer allowance.
So this is the first reading of it.
There you go. So we can,
We can correct it prior to,
so the resolution can say shall be introduced and read this first time this 26th day of April with the amendment to use the CRA as
CRA rate.
a CRA rate as a guide. There you go. Okay.
Anything further? Anyone? Questions?
Just going back there, I just went to the resolution and lost the mover and the seconder of that.
It's Councillor Pierrepont and Councillor Foster.
Okay, thanks. This is the first reading, so we can just take.
There's nothing further. We'll call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
That is carried. Down to 8.1. Financials, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 17725 to 17759 in the amount of $103,911.65. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any questions on the checklist?
Let's go back to check number 17731 DD West LLP, audit letter preparation, $448. I can't recall ever engaging a law firm to prepare an audit letter before. What were we doing there?
Our audit requires that we get confirmation of any liability, potential liability, from the lawyers that we use.
Did we also get from our other retained law firm then?
Any other checks on the list?
Just give me a minute.
Mr. Kushniryk, are you able to see the checklist?
Sorry, at the moment I'm just outside. Just check it out myself. Yeah.
I just thought if you can't see it, you might want to know there's a check to the co-op for $16,000.
List anything, what it pertains to?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
He wants to know if it says what it's for.
Fuel.
Fuel.
That seems like, pretty standard, purchasing.
Just want to make sure you know it was there.
Anyone else have any questions? Not? We'll call the question. All in favor? All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is carried. 8.2, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments checks number 4079 to 4091 in the amount of $18,087.72. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any questions on that checklist? Not? All in favor?
Yes.
That is carried. Okay, 8.3. Budget, what did you have for that?
Due to the length of the meeting, I was going to table that item.
Just curious, if I could ask, I haven't yet seen our proposed budget. Do we have one I could see?
I haven't seen it either. CEO has been working on it.
So have we had any budget meetings yet where we go through the numbers and figure out what we need to change?
I said I haven't seen it.
I just thought maybe somebody at the committee or something had been doing that.
If we have time towards the end of the meeting, we can look at it.
When is our public hearing for it? Is the 13th? Was I right on that, or have I got the date wrong?
May 13th, 7 o'clock.
I guess I'm a little concerned that it's April 26th now. So we have one more, is there one more council meeting before that public hearing?
I'm assuming it would be.
Yeah, so we'll have council on the 10th and the public hearing is on Friday. It just seems hard to imagine we could do a good job of budgeting having not seen it by this point in the year. Because certainly that leaves us, if we get to it tonight, great, and if we don't, that leaves us one meeting. Certainly budget 22 has been on this agenda, I've seen it many times this year. I would feel a lot more comfortable if we at least had a draft budget at this point, rather than just kind of flying blind on it.
Yeah, well, if we don't have time to get to it tonight, and even if we do, frankly, we typically have one or two budget meetings specifically to discuss the budget prior to passing of it, so I would not concern myself that we will run out of time or opportunity to.
Should we do the resolution for the public hearing tonight?
I think that was suggested that that would be done.
We'll do that, I'll put that together in the break.
Okay, we have anything under correspondence?
Nothing. No unfinished business. Committee reports.
Okay, we move committee reports in, communications. Councillor Foster.
Should I just tell them to hold up or call the other meeting?
Oh, the other week.
They can come in.
They
We're
can come in,
okay.
it's open anyways.
We have a transportation meeting, right, since last meeting?
Transportation and a special meeting.
Yeah.
Did you leave it unlocked?
You want me to?
Oh, there's two more down
Transportation special meeting.
Okay, Councillor Gade.
So I can't say I've really been to many committee meetings. I did have a concern, in that, you know, the last meeting of the council, I was voted off, suspended again. And then, I'm sure it wasn't meant to feel this way, but the feeling that came across was that once it was certain that I wasn't on council, a special meeting was called for just 2 days after the actual meeting, where council had had a fair amount of time to talk about things, to deal with some issues. And council was probably rather aware, but if you could just not interrupt, it'd be so much nicer, Mr. Webb.
I was looking at the committee reports. Yeah.
Communications, word
Yeah.
communications, right
Mhm.
there. We could get a dictionary for you. If someone had mentioned,
Such an ignorance son of a gun.
oh, Mr. Webb, you are too.
Stick to the topic, please, you guys.
So specifically, council was likely very aware that I intended to file an appeal of that suspension. Had anyone mentioned to me at some point that you're intending on holding a special meeting just 2 days later, I could have filed the appeal on Thursday morning and joined you to be part of those discussions. So it felt like maybe, and I'm sure it wasn't council's intention, maybe to exclude me a little bit from some of that. So certainly, I know a few people have expressed that concern to me, and I myself held that concern. Earlier today, I had several people express concern about the idea of if they'd be able to visit me in jail, but I'm glad that we've resolved that tonight. And we won't, Mr. Galloway, you shouldn't
Let's
talk
just
either.
move on. Come on.
Mr.
Let's-
You
let's-
should look in the mirror.
Let's just, let's
Come on.
pretend
You're not going to
that
tell
this
me to
is
sit on it.
this
Either
is-
stick to the business at hand or say that you have completed your report, please.
So the other thing I needed to report on was Swan Valley Rise, this little committee of 3 that was meeting. So I did take the opportunity to report back to them the conversation we had last time outside of the council meeting, that Swan Valley West would be coming up with the 4 names, and I think making the bio, doing all the contact and stuff. So I just wanted to touch on it again because that meeting's coming up on the 2nd of May, so this will be our last council meeting before that. So I wanted to make sure that somebody had undertaken to do that and get those names to that meeting so they're ready to go there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wells?
I don't think I've had any meetings since last time we met. I've just had a lot of phone calls about water and snow. Does anybody know if we have any gravel pits that we could get into in the near future?
James is open up.
Cooks is opened up.
Okay, because we do have a few areas that are gonna need some touch-ups. They're getting really hard to drive through.
And I think Graham's is opened up,
Okay,
possibly.
I should probably, I'll get a list of names of people that I know for sure, and I'll talk to you about that, James.
Okay, thanks.
We've been telling people that bear with us because we might have another run of water here, so.
Well, we probably will.
Yeah. So the grader guys have gone out and we sent a loader out a couple of times to smooth it over, but yes, as soon as we get going, I've got a list of roads that gravel is required, so we'll get right on that.
What about, is anybody, I hear that we have a new hoe operator.
Yes,
Has he been out and about anywhere that he still needs to be dug out to prevent water damage?
he's been out 3 or 4 days already to dig it out. As well as we've had contractors out. We were out at 170, or 218 and 172 yesterday to dig out, and we're on 160, 159 yesterday as well.
Okay.
And then on road 220, digging out the ditches, and so we've lowered the water quite a bit in those areas.
Okay,
Those are
good.
key areas. And so I think we've stayed fairly current with that. The grader guys, like I say, they're trying to do as much as they can with the roads. They don't have much material to work with, you know, after the water's gone over, but
Mm-hmm.
they're making it passable.
Make it passable at least, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all for me.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Pierrepont?
Special meeting, transportation meeting, and unfortunately, probably other than the office, the most phone calls of washouts and culverts. We just fixed one for the second time. We took out a plug culvert, and other than that, hopefully, looks like the main rush has started to come and the ditches are clean and we'll be able to go. We still have one or two roads washed out yet, but I'm guessing they're gonna get washed out again, so. I just keep checking our cones. They've gone from being taped on the road to the side of the road to the ditch to back on the road. People have to try to drive through the washouts. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kushniryk?
I had the transportation meeting and special meeting as well, and taking same as everybody else, taking a few phone calls about concerns, but nothing major. I guess I can always phone in and pass on the information that's being presented to me. So actually, it's been pretty quiet the last couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blosha?
A transportation special meeting, LUD, and some calls which were passed on to the office to get rectified.
Okay, I too hit with the end of the special meeting as well as the transportation meeting. And have dealt with a few calls as well. Yourself, James?
I had a transportation, special meeting, LUD meeting, and ratepayers calls to no end. So it's good, I'll just update this for you so you can do the resolution. Okay.
Here we go. Be it resolved that we do hereby accept the following verbal reports regarding council committees and communications. Councillor Kushniryk, transportation, special meeting, ratepayer calls. Councillor Blosha, transportation, special meeting, LUD meeting, ratepayer calls. Councillor Wills, no meetings, but lots of phone calls and gravel requested. Councillor Pierrepont, transportation, special meeting, calls and culvert questions. Councillor Gade reported on Rise. Councillor Foster, transportation, special meeting. Myself, transportation, special meeting and ratepayer calls. CEO James Webb, transportation, special meeting, LUD meeting, and ratepayer calls. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Foster. All in favor?
Yes.
It is carried. Okay, we have come to the point in our program, or in our meeting, I should say, where we will entertain a question or a comment on anything that was on the agenda this evening from those that are attending by telephone. Anyone have a question or a comment?
Not quite on tonight's meeting, but a thank you to Mr. Webb for cleaning up the incoming answering service to the RM office. Much appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Any other question or comment? If not, thank you all for attending, and we will call a 10-minute recess prior to going to in camera. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Next resolution be resolved that pursuant to section 152 sub 3 of the Municipal Act, council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, and preliminary discussions. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Wills. All in favor?
Actually, that little discussion if we could. When I see the LED committees here, and they're going to discuss the budget they are presenting, I'm not sure I agree with us doing that in camera. I can see the other things, but there is nothing that could prejudice the municipality from them presenting their information in public. I would like it to be public because obviously the people of Manitoba would like to know what they're paying for and what the numbers are. And I would hate to leave them in a situation, if we discuss this in camera tonight, they're unable to answer a question for any of the people in Manitoba that ask them a single question about the budget. It would all be tied up as secret. I don't think that's appropriate for us to do to them. It'd be the same for us, we couldn't discuss it either. But how can we ask them to not discuss their budget with any of the people of Manitoba who have to pay the bills? So I think we should leave that part over camera.
Just for my 2 cents,
Go ahead.
we talked about this at the LUD meeting in open session, so that budget can be shared. The discussions that we're having tonight are more of the detail negotiation type stuff, and I think that's best kept in camera. We do that with the town, anytime we're negotiating, so that we're not hanging dirty laundry out there, but the budget is what it is. And when we change things, the LED committee gets a copy of that. And
So are we in agreement that any changes that are made to this tonight can still be discussed?
well, when we publish them and the LED committee agrees to it, then we're good to go.
So for now, they'd be secret, like say they changed the amount they were giving to the rink or something, they wouldn't be able to talk about that with
Well,
anybody.
it's not gonna be in camera for long. Once I rework the numbers and give it back to them, it's a public, the numbers are public. There's no problem with that.
As long as, I just don't want anyone
It's our
upset after,
discussion.
if, you know, if the number changes from 10 to 20 or
Yeah.
something, then no one can say it changed to
Am I
20.
allowed to speak? Like, I don't think it should be in camera either. We went through this at a meeting in Benito before. The intent of keeping in camera negotiations is when it can do harm to the municipality. We're negotiating amongst ourselves, we're one. I don't see why any of us shouldn't be able to back up what we're willing to say in private. My opinion on any line in here, I'm willing to say to anybody. It would be different if you were negotiating with us to buy something off us. You know, you're not. You're actually negotiating indirectly with the ratepayers.
I just think it would be a whole lot more serious discussion when we are not fearful of stuff being twisted.
I don't think that's grounds to keep it in camera, and I don't think it's fair that you look directly at me because the twisting.
I did not
You look directly at me and lower your eyes at me over your glasses, and there's been much twisting in my direction as well.
LUD member Kushniryk, I did not look at you. It may have looked as if I looked at you.
Hey, just a
I did
second.
not.
If we still had a
This,
camera here,
this,
we could
this
prove it.
year is starting to set the stage for being out of order, and I want you to know that I will keep an eye on that.
Point of order, your worship. He's not chairing the meeting. He
I
shouldn't be
understand
lecturing.
that.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I have full
I
faith in
call
your
on
worship.
him to make a decision for me or give me assistance. That is the job of a CEO.
I would
So what
prefer-
we are going to do is we are going to do our discussions, not in secret, but in camera, big word, I realize,
Is secret.
Dictionary?
Yep, go grab one.
Yes. Mr.
And
Kate's dictionary.
the results of those
Goofball.
discussions will in
I think that's
fact
the term of endearment.
be voted upon by the LUD committee and can be discussed, as was suggested. There is nothing being hidden. So let's look to the final end product and try to work together, because we are not building relationships when this kind of back and forth goes on. So let's try to be serious about this. Let's try to do it fairly, and let's do it professionally.
We did our last one in camera, there's a video or two ago, I don't know what it was.
It was open.
We didn't get to meet with you last year. So the year before, it's on your website. We're making this decision based on feelings, not on any municipal act rule.
Again, you have an opinion, you are entitled to the opinion.
Can we pull the municipal act and have Councillor Gade, I know it's on the
No,
computer.
we are not going to do any more grandstanding
It's not
or
grandstanding, sir.
electioneering.
Reeve,
I'm going to be calling the question if we want to go in camera, and
This is
if
the
you
first
do
time
not
this has
agree
been done
to
in
go
camera.
in camera, then I guess that you can vote
Yeah,
against
it
going
is.
in.
First time
So,
was.
so a couple of things to say.
No, it wasn't.
I don't even
Well,
know
I'd
if
like
you're
to
recording.
record
Okay,
No, it wasn't.
It was not in camera last
It was
time.
negotiation, we had negotiations in camera.
Yes.
before
No,
the
we
budget.
didn't.
No, we didn't, you guys.
It's on the website.
We've had negotiations in camera before.
With this, we have not done in camera before.
It's on
No.
the website.
We can argue until we're blue in the face, but we have not done this in camera before.
Last year, we were not invited to meet with you. The year prior, it's on video on the municipality website.
It was
It
fully
is the
open.
Benito meeting on the side column.
okay. My mind, we've had discussion. I'm going to
So-
call the question.
I did ask for a recorded vote. I did also want to mention, you said that you relied on Mr. Webb to make decisions for you. If you're not able to make decisions,
If
council
you
can-
cannot
Could you
quote me
please stop?
directly and word for word, then I would appreciate you not trying to put words in my mouth.
So it's a matter of our bylaw that if you can't rule on a point of order yourself, council's to rule, not Mr. Webb.
Wasn't ruling on a point of order.
You are so goofy.
Okay, here's the question.
Vote.
All in favor of going in camera?
I did ask for a recorded vote.
Okay, a recorded vote is
Yep.
requested.
Yeah.
Councillor Blosha,
Yes,
Councillor Pierrepont,
Yes.
Councillor Kushniryk,
Yes.
Councillor Wills,
No.
Councillor Gade,
No.
Councillor Foster, and yes for myself. I declare the motion carried. We will go in camera. Now. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 152 sub 4 of the Municipal Act, this meeting shall be reopened to the public. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Pierrepont. All in favor?
Yes.
That is carried.
I forgot all about Tyler.
Tyler, it must be tired on that phone.
Okay, 13.3.1. Whereas a council member has appealed code of conduct sanctions imposed by council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, Wills to Gade, therefore be it resolved that council authorize the CAO to provide the information requested by the Municipal Code of Conduct Appeals Director, including, but not limited to, the investigation report, resolution of council sanctioning council member, written submission of council, code of conduct complaint, the Municipal Code of Conduct bylaw, and a resolution passed by council authorizing the CAO to provide documents to the appeals director. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any discussion?
So one thing we always do with these in general is the written submission. We always just send the original complaint again. But the point of the written submission is for council to be able to set out reasons why they oppose it being appealed. So if the appeal says, for example, because of reason X and reason Y, this should be struck down, that's council's opportunity to say, we believe those are wrong, it should be kept because of these reasons. And we've never really availed ourselves of that. So just pointing out that, that's an opportunity council has to actually respond to the appeal. It's not meant to just file the same complaint over again, because that's already filed. It's meant to be sort of a response to what you see in the appeal. So council may at some point want to do that, if they feel that's something they're interested in.
Any other comments? Not, call the question, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain? Okay. Resolution is carried with one abstention. Next resolution, be it resolved that Council of Swan Valley West set a public hearing to review the 2022 financial plan on May 13th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any discussion?
Would it be worthwhile putting where it is? Usually when we do a public hearing, it says we'll have a public hearing this time at this location.
Yeah, probably location should have been put in there. Can we add that in without any issue?
7 p.m. at council chambers.
Okay, so the addition is at council chambers. Any other comments or questions?
How are we doing this? Is it by phone or can people attend?
Right now, I've advertised it to call in, just because of our limited space. It's just hard to, say, limit it to the first 5 people that phone in or comment or register.
We can get more than 5 people in here. We had about 25 in here tonight, the fire department talk.
What if we did, like, we could fit 25, if we say the first 25 to register in person, and the rest have to be by phone?
And if you got 25 people in here, in addition to council, you'd have.
Well, maybe not go 25, maybe go.
Say 20 at the most.
Yeah, 20 people. We could quite easily do 3 rows of 6 and one of 8, or,
Yeah, I'm just going by the covered doors.
yeah.
Go 6 wide.
Because we had all those chairs strung out that one night. It wasn't that bad in here.
So we do that, we'll do 20 in person, the first 20 to register. The rest have to be by phone. That's a compromise, and we don't get 100 people in here.
Yeah,
Although
exactly.
really,
I don't think that.
usually we get 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, not usually a big thing.
And so I've put there that that they can call the office, so when they call the office, I can clarify that. That's good. Okay.
Okay, anything further? Not, we'll call the question, all in favor?
Yes.
That is carried.
We need to go back up to 7.6.
Okay, 7.6, resolution reads, be it resolved that bylaw number 0092-22, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West for the purpose of providing for firefighting, fire prevention, and related regulation of fire and other hazards, the adoption of the Manitoba Fire Code, and for establishing, continuing, and operating an emergency service, shall be introduced and read a first time this 26th day of April 2022. Do we have a mover? Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any discussion?
So, I'm quite opposed to this bylaw. This is the actual creation of a second fire department. And certainly, I don't think it's a good idea for us to be creating a second fire department so close to the existing one. When I'm seeing the cost for building this, the estimates I've seen, it certainly looks to me like we're not going to save any money, and we're likely going to end up spending extra. We had a meeting a few nights ago, a couple weeks now I guess, where we essentially heard that we're going to end up having to pay Swan River money for firefighting anyway, or spend a huge amount of money on this new fire service to make it do the same thing Swan River does. Which trouble me. I don't think it's well thought out. I can't in my mind think of a reason why it's good for the valley to have two fire halls within a couple miles of each other. I could understand putting a fire hall in a distant location. I could understand a lot of arguments for improving our fire service, but I can't get my mind around how we can improve our fire service by having two fire halls so very close together. To me, this doesn't make sense when we look at it from a valley perspective. Doesn't make sense when we look at it from our own municipality's perspective if we're not actually saving money on this. I just can't find that I feel like I should support creating a second fire department. I think it's the wrong way to go. I don't think it shows working together with our neighbors. And it certainly isn't going to do anything for the valley except spend more money that we could probably spend on something else. So I'm going to oppose this tonight for those reasons, but I would urge council to oppose it as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead.
I strongly disagree with Councillor Gade in the fact that you say save money. They're looking at buying a $900,000 fire truck. Who pays a third of it? The grasslands truck we purchased, they wanted us to pay a third of it. Swan River would own it. That in itself, there is no room in the fire hall for that truck, which means they're gonna have to do a new fire hall. Who's gonna end up paying a third of that? Down the road, this fire department will be cheaper than paying somebody else to have that fire department. And in my opinion, I believe it will do everything that Swan River does. And as Swan River is already disliking us, I haven't seen a lot of effort on Swan Valley. Swan Valley West has made every effort, Swan River has not, in building that bridge to that fire department. That is why I feel we need another fire department.
Is there's been concern that what we're building here, proposing for the second fire hall, we won't be able to go into a structure fire? Are we able to say we will be able to go into a structure fire the same as Swan River could if they were serving that area?
In time, yes, definitely.
When do we launch? So like, is that like within a couple months?
It's
Is
my
that-
goal, I won't speak for the rest of council, it is my goal that we will have everything required to enter into a building.
What's your hope for timeline, like at launch or a while after?
I personally would like to see it at launch. That's just,
The other issue, if we don't have the equipment as soon as possible, insurance rates will go up.
yes, I understand that.
Yeah.
That's,
I'd also be very, very concerned about us getting annexed all around town by Swan River. We'd lose a pile of tax dollars if that happened.
we are working towards that, to making sure that doesn't happen. That is what the training is for. I've inquired as to how much training we need with the staff we have to be able to do that. And it is definitely obtainable by the time we launch.
Do we need another truck though, or can we use,
Benito's truck is too old.
we probably have one more yet?
Yes.
Any idea, like is there a used one, is there a cheap way to get one more that would work?
I'm looking. Because, I mean, if we pay a third of what Swan River Fire Department spends, if they're gonna spend $900,000 on a truck, we would be spending $300,000 for them to have a truck.
And actually, just to clarify, as far as a grasslands, wildlands truck, when it was proposed that the Municipality of Swan Valley West contribute to a reserve, not the town of Swan River and Swan Valley West, as I recall it. So, any other questions or comments?
I have one.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have one more comment. The same imprisonment terms are in this bylaw as well. Maybe we could take those out of there. Page 9.
Well, this might be a good one to have it in there with the,
Why is that?
well, if somebody's playing havoc with your safety or with your safety equipment, you know. Once again, I mean, there's a debate whether the enforceability of it.
But again, we can't send people to jail for being unsafe, right?
No, but if they're,
Yeah, but does that bind the courts though?
But if somebody did something that we had to call the police for, that binds the courts. Right?
just going back to, while you're thinking about that, going back to the cooperation thing, like, I'm not part of council, but I do talk to the town, and I try, trying to make sure that negotiations continue and we're good. And I'm having a hard time getting them to sit down even with just a few people. I make the schedule readily available, but they're not coming to the table to talk, which is very disappointing, and I'm sure that in due time they will. And I say we have to look at it as one fire department. We're a small valley. The trucks are parked at different locations. Good reason? There's no, the buildings are limited. So if we look at it as if, we're working together, whether it's be training or fighting fires, when we get to a scene, it's not who's in charge, who's got the biggest toys, it's the purposes, get the fire out. And whether it's here or there, it doesn't matter, we have to work together. And I continue to emphasize that with the people involved, and I want everybody else around the table, while you're talking to those people, to encourage that, because these firefighters, before the scene, it could be seen as two different locations, two different fire departments. But we've got to get past that. We've got to get to the place where we're absolutely seamless working together. And that's got to be our goal. So I hope everybody buys into that. Like I say, I'm not on council, but I just say that that's kind of my personal take on it. If we can do that, we win. Everybody wins, I should say.
Do we have a water agreement with them yet to get hooked up?
We don't have a water agreement, but we have ways of supplying water that, is I think good, whether we had a line or not. We have to have that reserve, so, we will make that work.
We have reached out.
Yeah.
So, just on the town front, okay, I know what we're hearing here is we've reached out, they're not responding, they're not coming to the table. That is not the feeling over the town. The town is waiting for Swan Valley West. The town's claim, and again, it's the town's claim, is that they've told our CAO a couple things we need to do to get water line installed, and they continue to wait for those things to happen so they can approve water line. From what I understand, they're likely sending us a letter shortly saying we would really like to work on this. When will you please do these things we asked you to do? And one of them was sending a letter saying we wanted water to the fire hall. So obviously there's miscommunication someplace. Either the conversation, but if it's as simple as sending a letter over to get a water line put in, maybe we should, whether we think we're in the right or wrong or not, send them a letter saying we would like water service at this property for this fire hall. So we can at least have that discussion, because to me it's got to be cheaper to put a water pipe in an extra 100 feet from where it already is than it is to dig a well or have a reservoir or do something like that. If, even if that means we have to make the first move and we think they should have done something first, whatever it is, if we can save money on the water pipe instead of having to dig wells and do all that, maybe we should just say, let's send them a letter asking for a water pipe.
Well, I'll answer that with reference to my emails. I sent them an email, and very cordial, and I talked to them in person twice, and I got an email back said by March 30th we'll have you an agreement. Talked to them after that, and they said, yes, we're working on the agreement, but it's not going to be a one-pager. It's going to be, multi-page. It's going to be a municipal water agreement. No problem. We'll take a look at it. And it's now April 26th. And I've talked to them in person, so I'm not talking to council, I'm talking to administration, and you're probably talking to council. And so I'm not getting that response, so there is a miscommunication somewhere. If I've missed an email, that's on me, but I don't believe I have because I've talked to them in person. And what I need to do is, in fact, I told somebody the other day that this week I have to write them a letter so that it's on paper where we're at, what we're waiting for. And not only for the water, but for a sit-down meeting, as well as a couple other things, just to lay it out on paper. And I have to copy not only the administration, I have to copy, say, the mayor on it, because it's somewhere it's dropping, and I surely hope it's not myself, because I think it's very important that we do continue to work together and accomplish this.
So my suggestion is that they have to play by the same rules we do. So if a letter comes that just says Swan Valley West, their CAO does not have to take it to council, or it's town of Swan River. But if it says the council of the town of Swan River is who it's addressed to, they must take it and discuss it with council. So make sure your letter says the council of the town of Swan River, and then they have to talk about it at the council table, rather than it maybe getting misplaced on the way to the council table.
True, yeah. But yeah, I respect the administration over there, whether it's Public Works or whether it's CAO and Fire Chief, but you know, we do have to make sure that our communication is open, and if anybody knows of any breakdowns, we gotta clear that quick, because we just don't have any time. Summer's coming, you know, things are happening, everybody's busy, so there's absolutely no hold up on my part. We got a lot of skin in the game that we've gotta make sure we work together, because when we do go forward, we gotta go together.
Okay, this calls for the first reading. If there's no further comments, we'll call the question.
I agree with Matt, I think we should take that out.
Okay, that can be done prior to second reading. Did Mr. Jenkins compose this as well? Communicate with him as to the reasons for it.
Oh, just a second, I'll just put that in there. Firefighting prevention. Oh, keep clicking on the wrong one. Okay, so it'll be read the second time with amendment to remove jail. What did I put on the other one? Sentence? Prison.
Yes.
Prison sentence. Okay, we can change that. That's nobody's going anywhere. It's just with amendment to remove prison sentence statement.
That's for the second reading.
Yes, yeah, so
Okay, well, we're dealing with the first reading right now.
yeah, we can put this amendment in there so it becomes part of that reading, so. Okay,
Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, all in favor? Opposed? It's carried. So we don't have a resolution then for the second reading?
no, we don't. We'll do the second and third at the next one.
Okay.
And then we'll go to 7.8.
Oh, there's more?
7.8 was a designated officer.
There's no prison sentence.
Okay, the resolution reads, be it resolved that bylaw number 0094-22, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West for the purpose of authorizing the establishment of a designated officer positions, shall be introduced and read a first time this 26th day of April 2022. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Blosha. Any discussion? Nothing about jail in here?
Nothing good.
Short on this one.
Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we'll call the question. All in favor? Councillor Councillor Kushniryk, are you with us?
He's on mute.
Don't sleep on mute.
Councillor Kushniryk?
He must be pulling a calf. His phone's set down.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
yeah,
We hear you now.
We,
Your vote on the resolution?
I think I said yes.
Okay, we didn't hear you say that, but thank you. Okay, the resolution is carried. Okay, that cleans everything up.
Yes, it does. So on the adjournment, I have the next meeting is Tuesday, May 10th, but we'll call a special meeting as it suits everybody's schedules, so we can talk about budgets, etc. There's other stuff to talk
Okay, if there's nothing further, be it resolved that this meeting shall now adjourn at 10:38 p.m. Be it further resolved that the next meeting is Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by
Tyler.
Councillor Pierrepont. All in favor?
Yes.
That is carried. Thank you all.